welcome back. It's at the Coffee Table Podcast. This is episode 99
We
of
have to
the At the
we have to
Coffee
do
Table
something
Podcast.
special.
I know we need to kick it up a notch for, and you know what? It's actually falling in at a very good time. We'll get to number 100. It'll be the beginning of the new year or just before it. I mean, we're gonna have to kick this up a bit.
Oh, you don't want to do this next week?
Uh, oh yeah, but I'm just saying, we get to 100, 101. We're gonna have to step it up a notch or two. But in case you didn't know, I'm Jason Klink, and I'm here with my co-host Bob Kahn. And again, this is at the Coffee Table Podcast. Today we're talking about music, and music, can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. And Bob has a very, very big background in music, and is very talented in the ability to play music and use his guitar. And
I'm blushing.
we thought it was a good topic to dive into.
Yeah, music. Whoa, sorry about that. Music is something that everybody listens to. Doesn't matter what genre. But music is part of your life. They in that movie Field of Dreams, where he says, baseball has been with us. Well, music is like that too. I doubt there's any day that a human being that has access to music doesn't listen to it at least a little bit.
Yeah,
No matter how
for
rushed
sure.
you are, whether you're walking down the street, you might listen to a podcast, but you're going to listen to music at some point. I prefer the old radio stations where it wasn't just a repeat of everything, but that's a whole different discussion.
I was just,
Music, it's what's interesting about music, and it's been written all over the place, is that
yeah,
whatever mood you're in, it seems to find the music to fit. If you're feeling
yes,
great, all of a sudden they're playing music like, yeah. If you're at the beach, it's like, how do they know I'm here? If you're
yeah,
down, or you say you just broke up with your special person. It's just an amazing thing. And here's the best part. Think of how much music has been created since it was started on 13 notes. That's it.
yeah.
See?
And it's so funny that you said that, because I think back to the more dark time in my life, and like I used to go for a run. I used to put on my angry music. It was just hard rock, and it was just
Metallica.
that was the mood I was in, just an angry mood. And but I'd get I put on my hard rock, and listen to Stained, or God, now I'm drawing a blank, but some of the harder rock groups out there. And but now it's like, if I'm feeling like kind of jovial, even when I'm cooking, like I enjoy cooking,
I
and if I'm in
didn't
the
know you
kitchen
cooked.
and I'm happy cooking, I'll play Sinatra and big band music, just because I find it uplifting, and it kind of fits the mood of being in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's interesting because I remember we lived on Long Island, and all my relatives were in Brooklyn. So
Hmm.
we'd be driving along. Now, my father was the kind of father who owned, if it was the TV, he owned it. No,
Oh yeah, mine
what
was
he
same
wants to
way.
watch, the radio, and he would play classical music. Now, I happen to adore all forms of music. There are exceptions. I won't get into it, but pretty much all forms. But at 8 years old, I wanted to hear rock and roll.
Rock and
So we'd
roll.
have these fights. We'd complain in the back seat, and he'd say, "If I got to, the old dad thing. If I got to pull over and I got to get back." But I thank him and my mother for giving my sister and I appreciation of music. Because as far as we were concerned, there was only one kind of music. It was called rock and roll.
Right.
But because of how they raised us, again, there was always music. It just may not have been what we wanted to listen to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it was
it
so funny. It's
gave
so
me
funny
an
you say that.
appreciation.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that, because I can remember being in the car, a young kid. Again, the old man, he was in control of the radio, And for him, it was, then it was classic rock, but it was rock music from the 50s and 60s.
I would have accepted that.
Right? Well,
Except his
and it's
rock
so
music was from the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
right. Well, what's so funny now is the music I grew up on, the hair bands, the glam rockers, and
Right.
that's all classic rock now. And I'm like, when did that become classic rock?
I think it's decade by decade. Now it's
Yep.
interesting because I was just before we got on the air, I was playing. Oh, for those who don't know and don't follow me, I play guitar. I sing when I have a voice to sing. I'm a songwriter, and for some reason, I've been listening to the Beatles for the last 2 weeks. Um, and yeah, obviously they're classic rockers. They're not making any more music, but I'll bet you, and I will not be around for it. 100 years from now, they'll still be playing the Beatles. That
Oh
says a
yeah, for
lot
sure,
about
without a
music.
doubt. Yep.
There's rock bands, as we know, come and go. Pop stars come and go. Boy bands come and go. Girl bands come and go.
Yep.
But there's certain, like Sinatra will be around forever. All the great jazz singers, the Ella Fitzgeralds, the Sarah Vaughns, the Mel Tormes, and so on and so on. Again, thank you, mom and dad, for showing me that. I'll bet you there is not person in this country who has never heard chestnuts roasting on an open fire
Oh
by
yeah.
Mel Torme. Of course, Nat King Cole
Yep.
copied it, covered it.
Yep.
You know, but music is part of your life, and if you don't think so, you imagine a movie without music. It would sound
Right.
about like this, what we're doing. But
Yep.
the music lifts it. If it's a happy mood, there's happy music. If it's somebody's about to get killed, it's a different kind of music, and so on and so forth. And it just amazes me how much music is part of our lives in every way, shape, and form. You can't do a commercial without music.
Right.
There's
Right.
introduction music. We have a piece of music for introducing the program.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sitting here playing with all the music things that the platform has. I wish I uploaded some better music. But and it's funny because uh, I've always like you said, music kind of infiltrates every part of your life, and you remember movies from music, you remember soundtracks, you remember your first concert. I was just talking about that not too long ago. First concert, and my first concert was Bon Jovi and Skid Row at the Carrier Dome here in Syracuse. And I really
Uh,
didn't know Skid Row. I didn't know much about them. And I can remember walking up to the dome and you could hear Sebastian Bach just wailing away at his high pitch. I'm like, what in the hell is that? Um, I grew into Skid Row, as the years went on, but
Interesting.
those kind of memories are all part of music.
My first concert, since I'm a lot older than you are, was in 1960s, and the headliner, you ready, who was still doing rock and roll at the time, was Paul Anka.
Paul Anka.
Yeah, and my friend Eric, I hope you're listening. He has a genius of doing things. He collected all our stubs, the ticket stubs, and
Yep.
was able to. I have not to this day figured out how he did it. He went to the ticket booth and got refunds, but we never got our refund. He kept it because it was his idea.
Wow.
I don't know how he did that. But speaking of, you go into a concert and there's a band you're not familiar with. My friend and I were going to a concert in Long Beach Arena in California. It was the first farewell tour of, oh, my mind just went blank. I cannot believe it. Steve Marriott. Oh, brain. It keeps going in and out. Anyway, it'll come around. And this band called Journey was opening up. who the hell were they? And
Yeah,
then
right.
Iron Butterfly was the second act, Inagata Devita. I don't know if you ever heard that song. And Humble Pie. Thank you, Brain. Humble Pie was
Uh-huh.
in they were on their way to the first goodbye. Anyway, yeah, we figure who cares if we missed the first act? Well, as it turned out, like most concerts, they don't start on time.
Right.
So we're sitting down and we were, already bored because, who the hell's Journey? Who gives a crap? Come on, bring on Iron Butterfly. Well, you know who Journey is now. Well,
Oh yeah.
the original lineup was pure hard rock. It wasn't,
Yeah.
pop songs when Steve joined the band,
Yep.
and it was stunningly amazing how good they were. And the next day I lived on the beach in California. I drove into Hollywood to get the album at Tower Records, and I still like the new version, but the old version was still mind-blowingly good. You
What what's the worst concert you ever been to?
People are gonna hate me. Bob Dylan and Tom Perry. Bob Dylan and Tom Perry, Petty
Petty. Yeah.
were touring together, and Bob obviously Tom Petty opened the show. He was a phenomenon performance.
Yeah.
I just to me, I can't stand listening to Bob Dylan sing, so that was probably the worst. The
So I'll
la-
give you mine. That's almost at that level. Same is I was living in Virginia Beach in the time, and this is probably late '90s, mid to late '90s. And Virginia Beach had an amphitheater, and Stevie Nicks came to do a concert at the amphitheater.
You didn't like her?
She was a train wreck.
Well,
She
go ahead.
I was going to say, so she would perform a song, everybody clap and cheer, and yet she would cry after every single song, just about, just, oh, I'm so grateful. I'm like, "Oh, she is an absolute mess.
Oh, drugs are a wonderful thing.
Oh, yeah, cocaine will do that to you.
Yeah, couple of stories about Fleetwood Mac I learned, kind of backstage talk. When they recorded Rumors, I don't know if she was messed up drug
Yeah.
wise, but there's a story that goes that on, I forget which song, she was so bad and so pitchy, they literally had to record note by note by note. So it would be, okay, sing, stop.
Oh,
Okay, sing,
jeez.
stop. Then, I mean, she was the ultimate hippie. And you put money into hippie, it doesn't change the person. So they recorded, I think it was Rumors of the next album, in a chateau in France.
Oh,
Right. Now, this is a woman who's got, at this point, they've got millions of dollars, right? Because Rumors was humongous. She goes to Pier 1 and buys furniture for the room she was in so it would look like home. And I
oh,
said, wait a minute, wait a minute. She lives in LA in a mansion and her furniture is furnished by Pier 1. No offense to Pier 1, I'm just saying.
you're right, right. Yeah, you think it would be, yeah, I get what
Yeah.
you're saying.
I have a million. I mean, I remember that when I lived in LA, I went there, by the way. I transferred in a job I was working on, the Garment Center, but my goal was to get to California because that's where my genre is country rock, like the Eagles, etc.
Yeah,
And that's where it was coming from.
yeah.
So I get to audition for the LA Music something or other. And if they liked me, I would get 15. Everybody have heard of McCormick Park? It's a big park in LA. Excuse me,
Yeah,
big
yeah.
lake. They were going to have a concert of new artists, and the audience would be nothing but record producers, record labels, and I would get 15 minutes to sing my songs.
Mm.
Oh wow! Yeah. So I auditioned, and I did well because they accepted me, and then they asked if I sung in a different language. And I cracked them up because I said, "Are you kidding? I got enough trouble with English." That got me in the door. So they said, "Well, we want to do a warm up gig and we'll continue giving you gigs." They weren't exactly paid gigs. They never said they were going to provide any money. In fact, they wanted donations. So the first gig was in the Los Angeles County Woman's House of Detention, and
Rough crowd.
it was it was kind of a youth thing, but I think it went up to like in the age 30 or something like that. Now, I've never been to a jail before. I don't know what you're supposed to and not supposed to do in a jail, and that's
Right.
important, you know. So I brought my two friends. So one was the roadie, one was my tech because I had a sound system. As we're walking from the car to the entrance, we're carrying my guitars and stuff. We're getting wolf whistles and everything else, and I'm like, I don't know if to be excited or scared. So we get inside, we set up, and we're about a half a mile from where they're sitting. This is a prison, right? It's
Right.
not in my head yet. This is a prison. And, I do the first song, "Yeah, they love it," and then somebody yells out, "We want to see you afterwards. We haven't seen guys in so long." And of course, they got in trouble for opening their mouth. And we're like, it's bright. Now, you don't want to do it. If it's daylight, you do a bright concert. So
Yeah.
this is what got me in trouble. I said, "Can we turn the lights down a little?" And a guard comes over and goes, "This is a prison." Oh, yeah. I never made it to McCormick.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a lesson in reading the room.
Right. But it was fun. I mean, we had fun. But I got to meet over time because I've worked in guitar stores and stuff. And there are rock and roll stars, as my friend Troy used to say. And there are musicians who happen to be rock stars.
Yeah.
Well, there was a guy from Canada, Aldo Novo, one hit wonder, who had a slight attitude problem. And the two techs we had were road warriors, along with they were players and road warriors, so they didn't stand for crap.
Yeah.
He comes in, he had a gig that night, apparently. I don't know where. I'll assume it was Madison Square Garden. He was pretty big at the time. He lays his guitar on the counter like kaboom,
Yeah.
and they say, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Aldo Novo." Okay, Mr. Novo. No, they open it and they say, "Okay," and I don't know what was wrong with it. He goes, "Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I'll need it by 5." And they went, "Sure, Thursday." This was Tuesday. "No, you don't understand. I have a gig tonight and I have to use this guitar." "We understand. Thursday." The owner of the store comes out, and he was a suck ass when rock stars came in. I
Oh,
mean,
sure.
Steve Friedman was a super nice guy, a good businessman, but what a suck ass. I hope you're hearing me, Steve.
Right.
And he goes, "What's the problem?" You know, and he got it Thursday.
That's great.
you
I
know,
was thinking too how, I was a band geek in high school because my stature, it was too small to play sports, and
what'd
organized
you
teams.
play? What do you play?
So I played trumpet, and then my senior year they asked me to switch to baritone. They needed more baritone players, but I was such a half-ass musician because I don't know. I got into it as an activity in high school. I didn't fully embrace it. I didn't get the reps in. I didn't get the practice in that I should have. But I tell you what, the music we always played big bands music, and that's probably how I ended up enjoying
Cool.
so much big bands music because for concert band and for field band, and our directors that was just the genre they picked. Especially for field band, it has such great effect when you were doing marching band stuff.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you what though, and I was such a half-assed musician that like I didn't even take responsibility for my instrument. Like the first instrument my parents had rented, this brass trumpet and yellow brass trumpet, but I dropped it. The bell was bent back, and it got so bad that the band directors had to go to my parents and say he needs a different horn because what he's playing, it just sounds like garbage. So they had to take back this damaged one, and then I got a silver silver trumpet like the rest of the trumpet line or most of the trumpet line at the time because that was the thing. Um, but I tell you what, playing like Porgy and Bess
Oh,
and some of those big band
and
songs.
you did the steps to it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. But I tell you what, even in high school, I played with musicians that they at you were 16, 17, 15, 16, 17 years old, some 18 years old. And there were some musicians that I played with in high school that you could just tell they were destined to do great things because they were so talented.
Hmm.
Um, and but I made some of my best friends, playing music and being in high school band.
It's almost like a fraternity. Um, when I was in a couple of bands in LA, one band knows another band, and you go to each other's concerts, and and was what I found amazing was how many bands were amazing, but never got signed, and they
Right.
were better than a lot of the popular ones that were going around.
Oh yeah.
And but they still, they made their music. It's like my daughter's partner, as she called him, Scott Tipping, who, if you ever want to know what great guitar playing is, that's not a name brand worldwide, go on YouTube and just type in Scott Tipping. T like Tom, I, P like Peter, P like Peter, Ing,
Ing.
ING.
Yep.
Anyway, he's toured. I mean, he's opened for a lot of big people, and he's known. He's a superstar in and around Chicago area. But he I believe he could have made it big if he wanted to, but he didn't care,
Right.
and that's the people you want to see because they do it for the music.
Yeah.
You know, I've played gigs I didn't get paid, and then I played gigs where I got paid, but might as well not have gotten paid, not have gotten. I'm do English, not have gotten.
Put that in the dictionary.
You know, but
Uh,
music itself is just amazing.
yeah.
It could you can close your eyes and you can just take a trip.
Yeah. And you know what? I think some of the best music I've heard is even like local musicians. Like you said, they're not named brands, they're not signed to a label. And we've got quite a few local musicians just where I even worked with a girl at 911 that she, has a fantastic voice and so with some encouragement, she had put together a rock band. And this is probably 10, 12 years ago. Put together a rock band. They would go all over the local area doing shows, but it do just some
Mm.
kick-ass shows. And then the band breaks up. But her and her drummer and one of the guitar players kind of stick together. Now they do acoustic sets. They do acoustic shows. So the drummer, he's not even playing the drums. He's playing like a drum beatbox thing,
Yeah,
and he has some other percussion instruments, and then it's just the acoustic guitar and her singing. And that's
cool.
their niche now. Is just that acoustic sets.
When you're playing small rooms, that's probably better.
Yeah.
My daughter, who I've talked about before, I told the story where she was a child prodigy on the clarinet. Not my words, her teacher's words.
Yeah.
And then she was playing in the pit for the Union High School in New Jersey has one of the top 100 performing arts companies in the nation.
Yep.
And she's playing in the pit, looking up on the stage, going, I wouldn't mind doing that. Now,
Yeah.
other than singing in the shower or humming a song, we had no idea she could sing.
Yeah.
So one day she goes in and she was doing backup singing for her friend Bridget. Apparently, she must have been one hell of a backup singer because the head of the pack said, "You come here. How come you're not trying out?" Blah blah blah. Well, she comes home. She goes, "Guess what? I'm in the performing arts company. We're doing what? Singing, singing. Right? Doesn't practice at home. Doesn't sing at home other than in the shower. She got this third lead part in Les Mis in the high school with production, which was amazing. She played the oh man, the woman that dies. If you've
Mm-hmm.
ever seen the show or the movie, she's the one that, her daughter, Fontaine, and so on. Anyway, so she comes out. She comes out in the ensemble and she's doing the background singing. And then she does I Dream the Dream. There was not a dry eye in the place. And I'm like,
Oh, that's phenomenal.
holy crap. Right. And then if you know the show, her dying scene, there's a song, right? She's singing she sees her daughter. John Valjean is at her side, and she sings a song. Again, not a dry eye in the place. And one of the leads who plays Jean Valjean's father is like 18 feet tall, a man's man kind of man. And he says,
Yeah.
"Your daughter's killing me." And then, she had a nice voice. And then the next year they did another show. Well, they did The Wiz in her senior year. Again, I don't know what part she's playing because she didn't talk about it. Still doesn't tell us what gig she's coming to. She'll tell us when the gig's booked. Well, the way they did it, there's a scene where, if you know The Wiz, it's a black production, but didn't have a black high school. We had a very, very integrated high school. So 6 football players, bare chested, carrying, what the hell you call it? Something to sit on. But my mind is shot. Anyway, so we're sitting in the back of the auditorium, and they're behind us, and we just kind of notice them, and all of a sudden, this voice starts blowing out the place. I go, "Who the hell is that?" That was my daughter. She hadn't taken a lesson yet. Right?
And let the record show, we tried to book Bob's daughter on the
I'm
show,
not giving up. I'm not giving up.
and she hasn't graced us with her presence. So if she's listening,
Yeah.
we would love to have you on the
Yeah.
podcast.
And why did I bring this up? Because you should always encourage your kids to try everything, whether it's
Absolutely.
sports, whatever.
Yep.
But if they have some kind of talent, let's say they're pretty good playing the clarinet or the trumpet or whatever, encourage them to do the other parts of it. Sing. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, they can't sing. Well, that's what everybody starts out, not being able to sing. But it's surprising how good you can get if you keep singing.
Yeah.
And the better you get on your instrument, believe it or not, the better you'll get at singing. Now, some people can't carry a tune with a suitcase, but you can learn how.
Yeah.
Some people are naturally not pitchy. They have amazing voices. You don't know
Hmm.
until you try.
Yeah.
And her world has opened up. She wanted to be at one point, she wanted to be both in the pit and on the stage at the same time. Then she wanted to be the musical director on the stage and in the pit at the same time. Well, she has make see the first rule, in my opinion, of being a musician is make all your money from being a musician. So
Yeah.
she is now a world class musical director. Not my words. She is a keyboard player. She learned how to play keys in college. At the end of college, she can play gigs. That's pretty good. So she
Good for
practiced a
her.
lot. She is a vocal teacher. She's a performer. She plays guitar. She plays ukulele. Um, and it all started because one day she went to back up a friend, Bridget. So you never know where it's going to
Never
come
know.
from.
Yep.
Music is something that makes people happy. And my goal is to push music around the world so everybody, I have a vision of opening a school of the arts where the students come for free and it's supported by the arts
Yeah.
because there's people out there that are just as good as Frank Sinatra was, but they'll never know. Just like those bands we used to see in bars.
Yeah. And it's funny that you had said you kind of wrapped that story in a bow with, just go out there and sing. But so I have a mutual connection here, Syracuse Joe Altier. And Joe's an amazing performer. Joe started out in a hard rock band and Brand New Sin. And from that, and that's in his very young days, hard rock band, partying, whatever. But within the course of his career, his music career, he's been able to do national recordings. Like he's done. One of the things that comes to mind for me for him is like he sang the entrance song for one of the pro wrestlers. The WWE had hired him to write and perform a song for one of the pro wrestlers.
That's
And
cool.
to this
That's
day, he
cool.
had, and then that same pro wrestler changed wrestling organizations. And when he changed wrestling organizations, he couldn't take the song with him because he didn't have the copyright. So Joe
Uh,
sang him another song. So he has a whole new Joe Altier song for his entrance. But like this guy is so talented that he can sit down with his keyboard and cover anything.
yeah, that it's developing the ear. I mean, I remember the days with the albums on a turntable, you know, wearing it out, going, I want to learn this song. And you do it track by track, stop, try to
Yeah.
play it. Oh, then you got to bring it back, you know. Digital, it made it a little easier because you have it on your screen, so you could just slide it back and forth, you
Yeah.
know. But I had one quick story, if I can remember his name. Uh, should have thought of this beforehand. The band Anthrax. The band
Oh,
Anthrax was just getting started back in 1984, 83, 84. Ian Scott, who was one of the lead guitar players, comes into the store, and there's a guy working there who's, and I apologize because I cannot remember his name. Anthony Spitz. Spitz was his last name. He was about 5'5", but what a whiz on a guitar. This kid could
yeah.
play his butt off, right? We just, for some reason, we didn't get along, but I couldn't say that he didn't play the guitar.
Right.
Well, he and Ian hit it off. He ends up leaving, obviously working, and ends up being the lead guitarist for Anthrax. Well, I'm not an Anthrax fan because I'm not a heavy metal fan, but they were great.
Yeah.
I think I already told the story. Before they became great, they had some lessons to learn,
Of course.
and music being the funny way. Again, music is a fraternity. So everybody on the street, 48th Street in Manhattan, that used to be Music Row, um, would go to each other's gigs. So Anthrax was doing a gig in Brooklyn in a big auditorium. Um, so we get there, and behind the band, there's four four high, six across of Marshall cabinets. Right, Marshall is an amplifier,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they looked like they were lit, meaning they were on, not just there for show. Okay, they were copying Cream that, but Cream's amps were never on. They were there for show. They don't need, they were miking their own amps, and they had a mixer. They didn't mixed into a sound system, right? Anyway, so they play. It is nothing but sheer white noise. It, you don't play heavy metal is played at 11 on a 10 scale, right?
Right.
So after the gig, Spitz comes over and goes, "What'd you think? What'd you think?" And we went, question. And then we asked him about the amps. Were they lit? Yeah, isn't that cool? Well, I hate to break it to you, but because they were so loud, all we heard was white noise. Needless to say, they did not do that again. And from and they took off after that. And so I heard a story that he's retired in Buffalo making watches. When you got a lot of money, you can do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
But music will take you everywhere you want to go if you let it practice, unlike
Yep.
my friend here, Jason. And it's to me, it's all about dreams. You know me and dreams.
Yep.
If you have a dream, you want to be a star. Don't put yourself together to be a star. Put yourself together to be a musician or a singer or a dancer or an artist for the art. You cannot make yourself a star. That's out of your control. First goal should be making a livelihood from your art.
Yeah.
And then if you happen to be in the right place at the right time and somebody goes, I want you, the rest will take care of itself, because one thing about it, cream rises to the top. And if you don't believe so, then how the hell did Roger Maris get discovered from South Dakota? I don't know what that has to do with music.
And I tell you what, that's a great place to end for today. But infuse the New York Yankees into the conversation.
They just got Carlos Rodon,
Yes.
whatever how you pronounce it.
Rodon, whatever his name
Rodon.
is. Yep.
Sorry, Carlos. Anyway,
Well, everyone,
we could go on forever, but yeah.
oh
You're
yeah,
right.
this could be a 90-minute, 2-hour show talking about music, but I think that's a good place to end it for today. And if you're listening to this, both either the audio or watching it on the video end of things, we'd love to hear your take on the music that's influenced your life, or the shows you've seen, or maybe you are a musician and you've the struggles you've had to try to get recognized or anything like that. Please drop a comment, share this with anybody you think might get any value out of it.
Absolutely.
And we're just trying to build our small community here, and I think this is a great conversation to have at the coffee table.
Yeah, I think another time we should get into the bands that we love and what influence.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll have to do a part 2 to this at some point.
Yeah.
And talk about the different bands that kind of influenced our lives. With that, Bob, I'll have you end the show.
Okay. 2 days to Hanukkah, 9 days to Christmas. It is time to get excited. Woo! Anyway, as always, be nice, stay safe, and laugh a lot. See you next week.
I'm going to play a little music here. I'm just bouncing back and forth between the music that's available. But with that, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a great day.
So long.